Welcome to this explainer. We really need to talk about what's actually going on with AI coding assistants right now, because what's happening inside engineering teams is incredibly nuanced and, honestly, kind of wild. Today, we're going to completely dismantle this illusion that simply buying tool licenses automatically equals organizational productivity. So let's just dive right in.
Now, we have to start by acknowledging the undeniable, almost magical benefits we keep hearing about. You've probably seen quotes exactly like this one. Our team cleared 6 years of backlog in a quarter. Every PR is AI generated. We've never shipped faster. It's everywhere, right? Teams are moving from a raw idea to a working prototype at just breakneck speeds. For some teams, especially in early-stage product building, this hyper-acceleration is very, very real. We're seeing senior engineers delegate these massive root cause analyses to agents and literally closing 2-week tickets in a single hour. The sheer output of it all can feel pretty intoxicating.
But that brings us to the core tension of our explainer today. The big question we have to ask ourselves is this: are we just spending tokens on individual output, or is the organization actually learning? Because as you'll see in just a moment, individual speed does absolutely not automatically translate into a smarter, faster company overall.
To figure all this out, we're going to walk through 4 things today. First, we'll uncover the AI adoption illusion. Second, we'll look at the data behind the K-shaped productivity curve. Third, we'll expose the hidden costs of AI. And finally, we'll break down 3 rules for success.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the AI adoption illusion.
So the initial phase of just buying seats and giving everyone access? That was actually the easy part. But measuring success strictly by usage hides a really fundamental truth, which is that lines of code are a liability, not an asset. The best engineering cultures treat code as something you spend, not something you produce. Think about it. Every single line is a new surface area for bugs. Every new function is a new dependency. So when AI helps us produce massive amounts of code super quickly, it creates this illusion of progress. But in reality, if you aren't careful, more code just means more maintenance debt silently compounding in the background.
It's kind of like this. AI is phenomenal at 0 to 1 products. It helps literally anyone build a perfectly functional, basic Camry incredibly fast by just clearing out the boilerplate. But pushing the frontier of software, building the Ferrari, so to speak, doesn't happen just by generating more tokens. It requires subtractive taste. It requires knowing exactly what to leave out, what to compress, and what to refuse. And right now, AI simply cannot evaluate those complex, long-term architectural trade-offs for you.
Which brings us to section 2, the K-shaped productivity curve.
This is where the data gets really interesting. When labor economists look at the actual numbers, the productivity gains from AI adoption are literally splitting the engineering workforce in 2. It's a K-shape. Senior developers are writing the top line. They're experiencing massive benefits. Why? Because they already have the architectural intuition. They can delegate a complex task, instantly verify the AI's output, and crush a 2-week ticket in an hour. But junior developers are on the bottom line of that K. Their output is going flat or even declining. They're just treading water. So why is that happening?
Well, for junior developers, AI generation is a massive double-edged sword. First off, the code looks incredibly polished, but it often smuggles in deep architectural flaws. Second, because the barrier to getting an output is totally gone, juniors are blindly accepting generated code without actually understanding the underlying logic. Third, and honestly, this is the painful one, they are experiencing zero improvement in their actual platform or product knowledge. They literally aren't learning anything. And finally, as management focuses strictly on AI usage metrics, developers just start gaming the system. They'll actively hide their real workflows and experiments just to meet some arbitrary usage quota, which, you guessed it, completely stunts any real learning.
Let's move on to section 3, the hidden costs of AI.
When unmanaged AI generation just runs wild across an organization, you enter what's called the messy middle of AI adoption. Listen to this really powerful warning from David Kramer. He says LLMs remove the barrier to get started, but they create increasingly complex software which does not appear to be maintainable. It's mostly bloat. That hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly highlights the dark side of AI-generated code. When you optimize exclusively for speed, you often destroy your long-term velocity because suddenly your team is completely drowning in complexity. And that situation creates what we call code bloat. This happens when developers essentially stop acting like engineers and start acting merely as AI editors.
If you don't understand the exact logic of what the AI just spit out, you are injecting unmaintainable slop directly into your codebase. You are basically buying speed today using high-interest technical debt that you will inevitably have to pay for tomorrow.
So how do we fix this whole shebang? Well, we absolutely have to change how we measure success. We must abandon that old dangerous reflex of token to output, counting pull requests and bean counting the token spend. Instead, we have to shift our focus entirely to token to learning. We need to be asking questions like, which feedback loops closed faster? Which teams actually learned reusable patterns? Did the AI help us kill a terrible product idea earlier than we would have otherwise?
All right, let's get into the solutions with Section 4, 3 Rules for Success.
How do engineering leaders actually navigate this messy middle? How do we secure those massive benefits for our senior engineers while simultaneously protecting and developing our junior devs? Well, the sources give us a really clear 3-part framework. We need to shift to loop intelligence, implement agent operations with back pressure, and deploy contextual agent capabilities. Let's break down exactly what each of these means for you and your team.
Rule number 1 is shifting to loop intelligence. We have got to stop asking who is using AI enough and start instrumenting the work to see where AI actually changes the process in a way the whole company can learn from. You need to track which AI-assisted loops produce reusable organizational patterns. If a junior dev uses AI, did they actually learn from the loop, or did the tool just spit out some code that immediately decayed? You have to measure the learning, not just who burned through the most tokens.
Rule number 2 is implementing back pressure. Now, this is your direct antidote to the risks we talked about for junior developers. Back pressure essentially means creating strict review loops and healthy resistance within the workflow. It stops agents from sprawling out into total nonsense and, crucially, it ensures junior developers simply cannot blindly accept generated code. They have to verify it. They absolutely have to write tests for it. Because it's exactly in that friction where the actual, real learning happens.
And finally, rule number 3, deploy contextual agent capabilities. Look, we really have to stop pretending that 3 generic, monolithic enterprise agents can magically handle everyone's highly nuanced work. Useful AI capabilities need to flow directly into local contexts. A product manager's AI setup should look completely different from a junior developer's setup, or a customer support team's background agent. You have to integrate these tools thoughtfully, right where the actual work happens.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at your own team and take a hard look at your own code base. Ask yourself, did AI create actual learning here, or did it just create more output? Because at the end of the day, operational control and organizational learning, those cannot be rented. If you don't figure this out, you haven't built a smarter company. You've literally just bought a lot of seats. Think about how you can shift your team toward true loop intelligence this week. Thanks for joining me.